You are sitting in a metal chair, 3 floors underground, in a building that does not appear on any map. The table is bare. The camera in the corner has no blinking light. You have been here for 4 hours. A woman walks in with a single manila folder. She doesn't smile. She already knows everything about you. She asks one question. If your government asked you to become someone else entirely, and never speak about it, for the rest of your life, would you do it? You think about it. She is counting the seconds. Yes, you say. She closes the folder. Level 1. The Analyst. Age 24. 2 years in. $68,000 a year. You sit in a cubicle at Langley, reading cables. Thousands of them. Intelligence reports from stations on 4 continents, satellite imagery, intercepted communications, open-source analysis scraped from message boards and languages you are still learning. Your phone is locked in a Faraday pouch before you walk through the door every morning. You hear it click shut. That's the sound of the other version of your life going quiet. Your job is to take all of this noise and compress it into a picture that a senior officer can read in under 3 minutes and use to make a decision that might affect thousands of lives. You write drafts of the presidential daily brief, not the final version, the draft that gets reviewed by 4 people above you before it reaches the director's desk. If your analysis is wrong, policy shifts sideways, and people you've never met are in danger. If your analysis is right, nobody knows your name. That is the deal. Your girlfriend thinks you work for the State Department. At parties, when people ask what you do, you say something about government research, and they stop asking because it sounds boring. You want it to sound boring. Boring is safe. You don't know yet that in 4 years you will sit across from a man in a foreign capital and ask him to commit treason over coffee. Right now, you are still pretending this job is boring. But inside that cubicle, you're watching things unfold in real time that won't make the news for 6 months. You know which governments are fracturing. You know the name of a man in a country you've never visited who is planning something that could reshape the region. You flagged him in a report last Thursday. Your supervisor highlighted your paragraph and forwarded it upstairs. That is the closest thing to a compliment you will ever receive at this level. Level 2. The Case Officer. Age 28, 4 years in, $92,000 a year plus overseas adjustment. You completed the operations course at a facility in Virginia whose name is classified. They call it the farm, but you don't call it anything. For 18 months, they taught you how to spot a potential asset, how to develop a relationship over months of carefully staged casual encounters, how to sit across from someone and make them feel like the most important person in the room. They taught you the pitch, the moment you ask someone to betray their country. You are stationed in a foreign capital under diplomatic cover. Your official title at the embassy is Political Affairs Officer. You attend cocktail parties. You drink warm champagne at 11 at night and pretend to be interested in trade policy while you identify targets. That military attaché who drinks too much at receptions. That mid-level bureaucrat in the foreign ministry who seems bitter about being passed over for promotion. That scientist who mentioned financial problems to a colleague your technical team was already monitoring. Each one is a thread. You pull them gently. A lunch, a coffee. You listen more than you talk. You remember their daughter's name. You remember what they said about their boss 3 weeks ago. You make them feel heard. You make them feel important. Then, when the relationship is solid, you make the pitch. Sometimes they say yes because they want money. Sometimes because they believe in something. Sometimes because they are afraid. You learn to manage all three. The ones who say no are the dangerous ones, because now they know what you are, and you have to assess whether they will report you to their own security services before the sun comes up. But this is still the part of the job where you sleep in a bed with clean sheets. That changes at the next level. Level 3. The Paramilitary Officer. Age 32. Special Activities Center. $115,000 a year. You left the embassy world behind. You volunteered for a selection process that made the original CIA training look like a university seminar. You can shoot, you can fight, you can survive in terrain that would kill most people in 48 hours. You can conduct operations in places where the United States cannot officially be present. That sentence is not dramatic. It is written into your operational authorization. You deploy to places that don't have embassies. The infrastructure is a dirt road and a satellite phone. You grow a beard. You wear local clothing. You learn enough of the language to negotiate your way through a checkpoint manned by men who would kill you if they knew what you were. Your team is small, 4 operators, sometimes 6. You carry your own communications, your own medical supplies, your own weapons. There is no quick reaction force. There is no air support on standby. If your mission is compromised, the United States government will deny you exist. That is not a metaphor. It is policy. Your family receives a phone call once a month through a secure relay. Your children hear your voice through a static haze and ask when you are coming home. You say soon. You have said soon 7 times now. You don't know yet that you'll say it 11 more times before this deployment ends. You don't know yet that your daughter will stop asking, not because she stopped wanting to know, but because she learned that the answer never changes. And you don't know yet that the next promotion won't put you further from danger. It will put you in charge of deciding who goes into it. Level 4. The Station Chief. Age 40, 16 years in, $150,000 a year. You run the entire CIA station in a foreign country. Every case officer, every analyst, every support staff member in that country reports to you. You answer to the division chief back at Langley and, technically, to the ambassador. That relationship is complicated because there are operations running in your station that the ambassador does not know about and is not supposed to know about. You manage a portfolio of human assets, covert action programs, and liaison relationships with the host country's intelligence service. That liaison is a performance. You share just enough to maintain cooperation. You withhold just enough to protect your own operations. Both sides know this. Neither side says it. Your residence is swept for listening devices every 72 hours. There is a secure communications room in your house where cables arrive at 3 in the morning that require immediate decisions. Last month, one of your case officers was surveilled by the host country's counterintelligence service. You had 12 hours to decide. Pull the officer out and burn the entire network, or wait and hope the surveillance was routine. You waited. You slept 2 hours that night,
checking the secure channel every 40 minutes. The surveillance stopped.
Your network survived. If you had been wrong, you would have lost an officer and 6 assets who trusted you with their lives. You don't know yet that the officer you just saved will be killed on a different operation 14 months from now. You will sign the cable that sent him. The next morning, you drafted a cable to Langley that read, "Operations Nominal." 2 words. You stared at them for a long time before you hit send. 2 words on a cable. At the next level, the cables don't go upstairs. You are upstairs. Level 5. The Division Chief. Age 48. 22 years in. $180,000 a year. You are back at Langley. Your hands are dry. They have been dry for years. You stopped sweating the day you realized that the feeling in your stomach before a decision wasn't fear anymore. It was math. You are calculating who lives. You oversee all CIA operations across an entire region of the world. Every station chief in your area reports to you. You manage hundreds of officers and thousands of operations running simultaneously across borders that the public doesn't know are being crossed. You sit in meetings with the director. You brief members of Congress in closed sessions where phones are confiscated at the door and notes are not permitted. You have authority to approve covert actions that will never appear in any public record. You authorize budgets in the tens of millions. When a station chief sends a cable requesting permission to recruit a senior official in a foreign government, you weigh the intelligence value against the political risk, and you make the call. If it works, the intelligence flows upward and informs presidential decisions. If it fails, the diplomatic fallout lands on your desk, and you absorb it. Absorbing it is your function. Nobody told you that in the training. You learned it by watching the person who held this desk before you, aged 10 years in 4. You have served in 5 countries. You have recruited assets on 4 continents. You have lost colleagues in the field. You walk past a wall every morning on the way to your office. 140 stars, carved into white marble. No names. You used to glance at it. Now you stop, because you know 7 of those stars. 32 of them will never be identified. The missions that killed them are still classified. The 7 you know, you carry the way other people carry photographs in their wallets. But you are not the last name on the chain. There is one desk left, the one where the president asks the question. Level 6. The Director of Operations. Age 52. 26 years in. $204,000 a year. You run the National Clandestine Service. Every covert operation conducted by the Central Intelligence Agency worldwide falls under your authority. Every case officer in every country on Earth reports up a chain that ends with you. You are the person who sees the entire global chessboard, not pieces of it, all of it. You attend the President's daily intelligence briefing. You sit in the Situation Room when a crisis erupts. When the President turns and asks, "What options do we have that nobody can know about?" he is asking you. You manage programs with code names classified at levels above top secret. Programs involving capabilities the public does not know exist. You earn $204,000 a year, which is the Senior Executive Service pay cap. The person who runs the covert operations of the most powerful nation on Earth makes less than a first-year associate at a Wall Street law firm. Compensation is not why you're here. You are here because 26 years ago, a woman in a windowless room asked you a question, and you said yes. You have kept that promise every day since. You have missed birthdays, anniversaries, funerals, and the years when your children learned to walk and talk and read. You have carried secrets that aged you faster than time. You have authorized operations that saved lives, and you have authorized operations that took them. Both keep you awake. The stars on the wall at Langley are not abstract to you. They are people you trained with, served with, sent into the field. Every cable you sign could add another star to that wall. You read every one before you sign it, every single one. And then you sign, because that is what you swore to do in a metal chair, in a windowless room, 3 floors underground, in a building that doesn't appear on any map. The woman with the manila folder retired 9 years ago. You never learned her real name. She never learned what you became. But the question she asked still echoes in every decision you make. Would you become someone else entirely and never speak about it? You did. You have. And somewhere, right now, 3 floors underground, someone new is sitting in a metal chair, staring at a camera with no blinking light, about to say yes. They don't know yet what that word will cost. You didn't either.